Good morning, and thank you all very much for registering and attending today's webinar. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm speaking to you from today. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which each of our online attendees are living and working, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I wish to also extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us here today also. By way of introduction, my name's Richard Wilson. I'm the Business Development Manager for Datacom IT. And joining me also from Datacom IT are Christine Chetafani, who's our Marketing Manager, who's been responsible for coordinating today's event. But more importantly, of course, our two presenters, Roger Mills, who is also from Datacom IT and is Datacom IT's Digital Preservation Consultant, and Neil Cruikshanks, who's the Pre-Sales Solution Architect from Preservica. And between both Roger and Neil today, they'll be providing us with an overview of the Preservica digital preservation solution, but more specifically the Preserve 365, which enables the long-term preservation of high-value content that's stored in Microsoft SharePoint. But I guess for clarity, although we'll be talking a lot, or Neil and Roger will be talking a lot about Preservica today, for those of you who are not aware who Datacom IT are, we're a wholly owned Australian company with over 40 years of history in operation. Our genesis was in fact in the digital, not the digital, but in the preservation of records on microfilm and microfiche. And of course, that is no longer a long-term storage medium, hence why we're here today showing you Preservica. But as an organisation, we provide a range of specialist digitisation services across the country. And of course, solutions of which Preservica is one of those. Now, before I hand over to both Roger and Neil, if anyone does happen to have a question during today's presentation, you'll find in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there is a chat box. So we welcome you if you think of a question during the presentation. Please feel free to enter that question into the chat screen there. And although we won't address it right at that time, on the end of that presentation, we'll circle back to that and I'll present that to our team to answer. So I guess I'll now hand over to Roger to kick off today's presentation.
Thanks very much, Richard. And I'm coming to you all from Gadigal land of the Eora Nation here in Sydney. So yeah, welcome everyone, especially to our colleagues joining us from the UK, staying up well past your bedtime there, Neil. So thank you for doing that for us today. In our previous webinars, we focused on developing a digital preservation plan and strategy and the role of Preservica as a TDR, or trusted digital repository, in that process. But in a bit of an Australian first, Datacom IT are now pleased to say that we'll be supporting the rollout of Preserve 365 for extending, as Richard was just saying, Microsoft 365 information management capabilities. And as you'll learn today, Preserve 365 is bit of a game changer, really, for anyone working in records management with SharePoint, Purview, and Power Automate, really because of how it integrates with the MS365 environment to streamline the secure transfer, retrieval, and preservation of records and archival content. So the structure of what we're going to be covering in the next hour will be an introduction to Preservica and our Australian clients, followed by a bit of a rationale about digital preservation, as there might be some attendees who are coming to digital preservation for the first time and thinking we may not have a full understanding of some of the urgency, I guess, for digital preservation in records management and archives. We'll then move on to what active preservation is all about, and that will be followed by my colleague in the UK, Neil Cruikshanks, providing an overview and demonstration of the Preserve 365 system, as Richard just mentioned. So really, Preservica are the leaders in digital preservation, particularly for compliance and long-term protection of your records and archival content. You can see a plethora of organizations who've chosen the solution, which is why Datacom IT really wanted to partner with Preservica, Richard, going on about 3 years ago, I guess now. Preservica themselves are based in Oxford in England, but have offices in the US as well. And that's where partners like Datacom IT are so important to the implementation of the system here in Australia, to provide that local support, and offers our contact with our certified, fully certified consultants. So aside from the broad breadth of Preservica users, it's really the partnerships too that you can see on the right-hand side there with Microsoft and AWS that really underpin the system's technology, as well as those ISO and cybersecurity certifications as well, which is really so important for your IT teams as well. So Preservica have rolled out in Australia to date a number of clients, and you'll see them here, some key Australian institutions, which we're hoping to build further on over the coming months. They're all using Preservica, and the experience has been really positive to date, and I'm sure many of them would be happy to reflect on their experiences of using the system as well. So I thought I might just start with, for those who are joining us who would like a little bit of information about digital preservation before we get into Preserve 365. The rationale for digital preservation, whether a records manager or archivist, really in the first instance is to ensure that you secure and preserve your organization's records and documents for as long as you need them, whether that's for a set retention period or indefinitely. And to be able to view them with the technology, you'd reasonably expect to be able to render them in as well. Of course, storing data doesn't just guarantee that it'll be there when you need it. When you consider common issues such as file degradation, bit rot, and likewise file obsolescence is another key risk that needs to be mitigated. And of course, all of this feeds into your organization's responsibility to ensure compliance with your legal frameworks and governmental legal frameworks as well. And we've seen here with the Banking Royal Commission and other government inquiries that require records that sometimes can span up to 20 to 30-year periods, and the legal ramifications and reputational damage that can occur when they can't be sourced in a timely manner. And that's really what we're talking about here with Preserve 365, is being able to secure and source those records when they're called upon, which is such an important aspect for government entities, but also businesses as well. Ultimately, the last point in that rationale is, it's about providing access to your records and archival content by those who need to access and reuse them, whether it's lawyers or other stakeholders. So let's look at some of the risks to long-term data storage, which is really why digital preservation has become such a significant issue for organizations. And you've got media storage fragility, all mobile and disk drives, they've all got a shelf life and can break down, leading to loss of data. That can also cause corruption in files, which can also occur in your EDMS or on your network drives as well, particularly when you're moving data, large amounts of data around or adding data. We touched on file format obsolescence a little bit earlier, but technologies, operating systems, they're constantly changing. And you'll need to ensure that you'll be able to view your data over an extended period of time in that technology that you would likely expect to be able to view them in. Ownership and provenance is another one. Audit level file history, being able to guarantee you can verify data is what you say it is and who owns it. Likewise with incomplete metadata and context. Over many years, as you probably all know, staff move on and so do naming conventions. And the Preservica TDR really encourages high level administration of data so you can avoid those accidental changes or deletions. And of course, one of the excellent things about Preservica is the deletions can only be completed by two people signing off on that deletion decision, which is so important. Of course, with climate change, we're seeing more and more extreme weather events, and it's no more so than here in Australia. Floods and fire can rip through an organization, on-premise storage that's not backed up to the cloud. There's a real issue there with losing data. And of course, there are organizations who are still sweating out legacy systems that have long since lost vendor support for their software license. So really, there is a kind of strong sense of risk of long-term data loss that we all have to face. So to go to some of these issues, here's some fun facts. In a recent poll of CEOs by the Information Governance Institute, 89% were keeping long-term information for their regulatory and legal obligations, and a further 83% of lenders wanted to maximize and gain advantage, strategic value from that information. Yet only 50% of that data, the data backups, were actually fully recoverable or deemed to be fully recoverable in the event of a disaster. So it really does beg the question, is your current approach really to long-term digital information, is it going to support your business when need be? Or is there more that you could be doing in this space? All right, so this really brings us on to active preservation, which is really the key preservation strategy that Preservica applies to all of the content that is held within a TDR. So first of all, on ingest, it characterizes the file, identifying, in other words, the file format and assigning it a unique identifier. Then looks at the file's compatibility with current and future technologies that we likely need to access it, and then it migrates the file into a future-friendly format that can be read and used by current and future technologies. Of course, preservation status tracking is an ongoing monitoring of your content for any issues that might arise. Preservica will then track any changes that are made to the files and keeps a record, importantly, of that record history that you can always access to demonstrate changes in the history of that file for provenance purposes. Of course, part of this process, your Preservica system will verify the integrity of all of your records through regular checksum validation or what we call fixed-D checks as well. Preservica does all of this within what's known as an OAIS, or Open Archival Information System, which is really a long-term framework for digital preservation systems and standards. You've got what's called a SIP, or a submission information package, which you're ingesting your content into the solution. You've got archival information package, which emerges from the administration that you do within the system itself, adding metadata, updating content. And this is importantly where the active preservation takes place. And then, of course, you've got your access portal, providing access to all of the people that require it, or your stakeholders in so-called dissemination information package. And that is really all based around that OAIS framework, which is really the hallmark, if you like, for digital preservation systems. All right, so a little look at the organizational workflow for digitized and born digital content, whether it be types of content that could be ingested into Preservica, moving from analog content, having that digitized, whether it be documents or letters or films or recordings, multiple, over 2,000 different file types that Preservica can ingest and identify within its registry. And of course, born digital content as well. This is really where Preservica and Preserve 365 comes into play, with all of those sort of records, online publications, emails, office files, social media sometimes as well, websites, and the like. All right, so this really brings us to Preserve 365, which is really being developed to integrate with your existing MS365 environment, to embed that active digital preservation into your workflow and allow you to, I guess, eliminate those time-consuming exports and uploads of records to, speak to what I've just been showing, ensure that integrity and authenticity and security by moving your files, folders, lists, and libraries directly into the archive in literally just a few clicks in SharePoint. And Neil will demonstrate that very shortly. The Preserve 365 also allows you to streamline your workflow further by using your existing Microsoft, things like your retention labels to automate disposition actions. You can set up your retention schedules in Preservica and then automate those actions. But I think this will be a good time to hand over to Neil Cruikshanks, who's been waiting patiently in the wings there for us. You still awake there, Neil?
Just about.
Okay.
Yeah, just about.
You're
Patiently waiting for that. So yeah, hello everyone from Sleepy UK. It is really past my bedtime. Roger, I think the slides have dropped off my screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me.
That's okay.
Oops.
Yeah, so I've just got a few slides to whip through. Nothing too strenuous. Just set the scene in terms of the additional functionality we bring to SharePoint and other technologies within Microsoft 365. And then I'll effectively just run through a bit of a demo. So perfect, thank you, Roger. So what we're effectively trying to highlight here is that there are a number of solutions, a number of places where you'll get the best value in terms of placing your data. So SharePoint is a very common platform now, especially if you're using Microsoft 365. All of your born digital data kind of sits there, and as we all do, it's hugely organic. You'll just get massive quantities of data in there. We've got customers with petabytes of data, so huge swathes of data. The thing with SharePoint is it is premium storage. It really is very costly when you get to your limit, and then you need to start buying extra storage. So really, it's kind of like a short, medium-term solution. The stuff that you collaborate on a daily basis, that's where you want it to sit. So the middle tier is Microsoft 365 Archive. We've just last week, middle of last week, I think it was, had some exciting news. So we've just launched some new news about the way that we're partnering with Microsoft, and specifically in terms of bringing our preservation functionality to Microsoft with Microsoft 365 Archive. So we really do work in collaboration with Microsoft significantly, and I say that kind of feeds through this hierarchical process of the best places to keep data. The middle tier in terms of 365 Archive is really for the kind of the data that you don't necessarily need access to. It might be something that the organization doesn't really know what to do with, may want to keep it for the sake of keeping it because better to put it somewhere than delete it. And solutions like Microsoft 365 Archive are great for that. It's a cheaper tier of storage, and it's it's effectively cold. It goes off and does what it does. And whilst they do offer some features and functions around ensuring the integrity of that data, they don't do a great deal to ensure it, as Roger was talking about, for the long term and into perpetuity. So that's effectively where we come in. So Preservica takes all of that kind of 20 plus years experience that, again, Roger was showing you earlier, that we've built up over all the different markets globally and all the different business verticals. So we've taken all that functionality and we've effectively now extended it into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And as you can see, as you go further down the chain to the right-hand side, the costs are dropping, but ultimately the amount of data. So typically what we're looking for is those high-value digital assets that you need to keep for the long term, whether that's 7 years, 10 years, 100 years. And typically you'll find there'll be, like legal records, there might be HR, there might be plans, typically different things in different sectors. So as an example, in the UK, all police records need to be kept forever, I think it is. So, you need to ensure that you have a solution where you can put that data, be confident in the fact that we're doing all these fixed checksums, fixity checks. We have the data replicated across multiple storage, and it is all fully audited. Again, much to Roger's point earlier, there's the full lifecycle tracking of kind of data in, and then a 4 eyes approach to deleting. So it's it really is kind of trusted all the way through the chain. Next slide, please, Roger. Thank you. So just briefly touched on it earlier, but Preserve 365 was developed in collaboration with Microsoft. And the reason for that is we wanted to ensure that we had a solution, or we built our solution so it didn't compete with Microsoft and their archiving technology. But as I say, it really is a collaboration. So it's, some stuff you go with them, some stuff you come with us, and it's entirely your choice as to what goes where. But part of the reason, in addition to that, we work with them is we wanted to kind of maintain this high security solution. So because of that, we operate Preserve 365 is effectively a SharePoint embedded application, and that allows us to ensure that everything's encrypted in transit, encrypted at rest. The other thing that is really key from the integration is that we maintain all of the file permissions, so the access control list. So the list of users that have access to the data in SharePoint is effectively maintained as it comes across, and then only those users can continue to gain access to it into the future. With Preserve 365, everything's hosted in Microsoft as well. So we're effectively using Azure storage at the back end, and that again allows us to benefit from leveraging the Microsoft core infrastructure and getting all that really good integration and speed. Next slide, please, Roger. Okay, demo time. So fingers crossed they're on. As I try and find the screen to share. Right. Let me just bring this across. Can you see my desktop?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Well, we can see.
We can, but Neil, it's actually another replay of the whole screen that includes our webinar page, so not just the demo.
Okay, let me try that again then. It did work earlier, honest.
It's always the way. That's okay. Everyone knows this is live. There's no there's no smoke and mirrors here. It's all live.
It is the immutable law of demo. Okay, so there we go. Right. Okay, so it's on a different screen now. So if I look to the right, it's because I've got it on a different screen. But basically, what we've got is a SharePoint site, which is obviously I've just tailored so it looks like Datacom's. Datacom might be even. So if I go through this, it's just a standard SharePoint site, and you can see that we've got an archive column now, and you can see at a glance whether files are archived or not. So at a core kind of basic feature, we can select files and we can do a manual move. So selected some files. I've got archive up here on the menu, and then I have a copy move option. Copy is a point in time immutable copy of the original. So we just take it, keep a copy in the back end, fully audited, maintain all the same permissions, but the original effectively stays in SharePoint. The move is much the same thing, but a move sends a delete back to the file as it resides in SharePoint. So at that point, it only actually resides within the Preserve 365 platform. What you'll see as part of the demo is I've got stubbing enabled, so you can enable or disable stubbing on a site-by-site basis. And so the benefit of that is if I find my cursor, so I'll send these files to the archive. It's as simple as clicking a button and they're going through. So you'll see now that they should start, there you go, going through the process. And this is that active digital preservation process Roger was talking to earlier. So we're effectively doing antivirus check-in, we're doing the fixity checksums, making sure everything's good, replicating it around multiple systems, and then effectively we are creating those access copies of that data, so to ensure it's always accessible. So what you'll notice, because I've done a move, is effectively created these stubs. So if I click on the stub, you'll see that it basically is launching the Preserve 365 rendering viewer. This is, it doesn't need any add-ins, or you don't have to install anything. This is a web-based browser or viewer, and it supports every modern browser. So you should be good to go out of the box. So in this instance, obviously you can see we've got all of the formatting that was in the original file. We've maintained the index. From a properties perspective, we bring across all of the metadata that was associated to those files in SharePoint. So you can see, you know, like what I'd approved it for removal and all this kind of stuff. As is typical with preservation solutions, we've got a whole raft of additional metadata features and functions at the back end. But effectively, if anything's associated to the data as it sits in SharePoint, we bring that over with that kind of very simple, you know, right-click archive process. From a download, we keep the original. So the original in this instance will be the PowerPoint file. But if you imagine it, this is a WordPerfect. So this would be a WordPerfect file. The latest access is a very lightweight, kind of lower resolution copy, so PDF. And the preservation master is the highest quality nearest to the original. So again, in this instance, it would be a PDF. But if there are various different video formats, then you know you're going to get different files. So you can download the asset in whichever flavor you like. The original obviously stays inside the platform. It's all, again, audited. So we have the full audit chain of who's accessing it, who's viewing it, who's taking a download. So in addition to the file, you can also download all the metadata as a separate JSON file. So yeah, dead easy, pretty straightforward, clicking on the wrong screen. And there we go. So basic principle, you know, we have manually, you click a file, you send it to the archive. The real value, however, in my humble opinion, is through driving automation, so leveraging technologies like Purview and Power Automate. So Purview is a huge technology suite from Microsoft, and the bit that we effectively have extensibility with is data lifecycle management. So that allows you to create and apply labels, and there could be things like, right, I want to keep data for like this here, you know, keep it for 7 years, then delete it, or keep it for 2 years and then move it to somewhere else. So we do this a lot for a number of different organizations. There's a large bank in the UK that we're dealing with this at the minute. So they keep the data for an amount of time from the point of creation, because they're meeting minutes. As soon as they hit SharePoint, we basically take a copy of it to the archive, and then a period further down the line, we will take another copy of that data. So we have the first copy, the last copy, and then they'll effectively go through that disposition process. So just to show you how the extensibility works, so we've got a label here. We have, I always find myself saying this, but very unimaginatively called it Preserve 365 Move. It does nothing in terms of SharePoint, so we're not applying any specific actions to this. But basically what it is it's just to show you how the extensibility works. So if I cut over to the Preserve 365 Admin Center, you can see we've got the label-based archiving, and what you'll see here is that when it's enabled, it will filter through all of the different data lifecycle labels that you've created in Microsoft Purview. They all come over with a default action of nothing, and then effectively you can take a move or copy action against any of these. What happens then is when that move or copy action is associated to a Purview label, we will then poll SharePoint, and if we find something from that point onwards that's had that label applied to it, then we'll take the appropriate action. So here's our move label. I'm going to set it to move from the wrong screen, to set it to move from the nothing it's doing at the minute. Save that. I will go back into SharePoint. I'll go find a file. So this is a great example of a file that won't render effectively in SharePoint. So this is a real media file. If I click it, then this is the kind of the typical you can't open it that you'll get within SharePoint. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply that label to it. Oops, sorry, I've got a little thing in me. Let me get rid of that. So we're going to apply the Preserve 365 move label. Close that down, and then what you'll see, it will go through that digital preservation process again, and then it's archived, and again it's stubbed back. So now if I click that stub, it renders the viewable asset now directly within SharePoint. So the benefit of this is effectively it means that your users don't have to learn any new technologies. They don't have to go anywhere else specifically to find access to the data. If they're used to browsing to it in a particular folder, you can keep it there by stubbing it there, but inherently be confident that that data is being retained for whatever period you want it to be retained for within the core Preservica technology. So if I just go back, just in terms of that as well, we also have every time we archive a file, whether it's a copy or a move, we effectively populate the SharePoint search index. So what that means is that you can use the native SharePoint search as well to go away and find anything that you're, well, as a user, that you've archived. We have this archive tab that means you can just specifically filter it against any of the assets that have been moved into the archive, and again you'll be able to see some cursory information about when it was archived, who archived it, who last modified it, that kind of thing. So here's the asset we just archived, and if I click it, there you go, you can see it's just rendered the same asset, but using the SharePoint search index rather than accessing it through the stub. And effectively that would be how you find it if you use the move feature without stubbing back. I think one of the other things I should mention as well, sorry, is that we use role-based access control. So we have an admin group, a copy group, and a move group, and unless you're in one of those groups, you won't be able to either use the copy feature, the move feature, or even render any of those assets. So it's all down to role-based access control again, which layers on that the security that we were talking to earlier. So one of the other ways to drive automation is with Power Automate. Power Automate is a fantastic tool with thousands of connectors. So I've created a very basic flow just to kind of give you a sense of the kind of thing that it does. So we've got two connectors. I'll just expand this out. So we've got two connectors that have been approved by Microsoft. They're certified and in the Microsoft Power Automate connector store. Preserve 365 move, Preserve 365 copy. So in this example, I'm using the move connector, and then effectively the flow is monitoring a folder. It's doing a 24-hour filter, so only look for things that have been placed in that folder within the last 24 hours. It's then capturing all the information, which is what all this other gobbledygook is, in order for it to be able to effectively get the location for this connector and then ultimately I'm updating a spreadsheet just so we can kind of track what's being moved. It doesn't have to be a spreadsheet. You can use Power BI if you want to deliver a report internally as part of a records management function, and we do have customers doing that as well. So again, just to show you this in action, I'm going to select some files here, and then I will move them to my archive folder. So that's the folder that's effectively being monitored by that Power Automate flow. If I go into the folder, you can see the assets there are archiving, archived, and then just going to scroll down and open up a picture of a print head. There we go. So again, so the idea of me showing you the automation is that you can do it through Purview or Power Automate. The kind of the beauty is that you can use these tools to help you go away and kind of automate the function, and then add a layer of manual processing to it to effectively assure that that's the data that you ultimately want to commit to the archive for the long term. So rather than it being fully automated or fully manual, it's kind of almost like an hourglass: automated, manual, automated, and then through leveraging that, you can drive some real scale. And where would we be if we didn't include Copilot in a demo? We'd be getting told off by Microsoft. That's exactly where we'd be. So this is a Copilot Studio agent that I wrote, and it says basically it's just to give you a sense of what's possible. Out of the gate, again, from a security perspective, all data that sits within the Preservica core is completely closed off to Copilot. So Copilot won't be able to access that data in the same way it could if it was in SharePoint, and that is the same with the stubs and the search index and things like that. It cannot get any information out of the data once it's in Preserve 365. So we do have some use cases where companies use that as a security demarcation. So if you want to accelerate the enablement of Copilot, you can take all that high value digital assets and effectively put them into Preserve 365, ensuring that Copilot's not going to get access to it. In this instance, what I'm doing is I'm leveraging Copilot to help me find data through searching various different metadata fields as it sits within SharePoint, and then taking an action on it. So I am going to search for some files that were created on a particular date. So in this scenario, there was a town hall meeting. I know it was in January of 2011. And I know it was taken by the town administrator, and there is a particular person whose details, I kind of want to check, and then take some preservation actions around it. So, done the search. It's brought me up these two items, very similar named, and if I open up the folder, I can see that they're both in there. And basically, one is the meeting notes and a recording of the meeting. I can't access the meeting to see what was in it, unfortunately, because it's a real media file. But what I can do is I can access the meeting notes, which are pretty comprehensive. And I can see here it references Steve Gates leaving, and that's the bit that I'm interested in. So now I know I'm in the right place. I can go back to my Copilot agent. I can select the real media video. I'm not really too fussed about the notes. I just want the video, and I can then preserve those files. So effectively what's happening now is you're asking, do I want to copy that data or do I want to move it? And ultimately behind the scenes, this is leveraging the Power Automate connectors that I showed you a short moment ago. So I'll move it, and it will go away. It will take that action. It's going to process it, and it's going to come back with a little fanfare, tell me that those assets have been preserved. I can now open the folder. I can see it's going through the actual digital preservation process. And now when I click it, it renders the video. renders the audio. I can skip through it. Again, it's brought down all the various properties, download it. It's the same features and functions all the way throughout. So really, from a demo perspective, that kind of brings me full circle. So manual all the way through to fully automated, and kind of, you know, everything and everywhere in between. So I think at that point, Roger, if I stop sharing, I think you may have a few more slides in the deck.
Thank you for that, Neil. That's really useful. I noticed there's some questions that have built up in the site there, which is great. I recognise some of those names as well.
Do you want me to read those out, Roger? So I guess to everyone who's still there, if you have got a question from today's presentation, please drop it into the chat box there now. We'll work through those. So the first question we've got here is from Hang, asking whether this application will integrate with others such as Spidus and Recollect. Roger, maybe I'll direct that one to you, seeing you know both of those two products.
Yes, yeah. Not directly, but there is all the possibility to create APIs to integrate Preservica with a number of different systems, and that would need to be, and maybe Neil can speak to this a little bit more, would need to be costed as part of the project discussions that would be moving forward with that. But certainly there's a possibility of that, but there's no integrations as we speak today.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Roger. So we have a series of APIs that facilitate integration, and we also have webhooks. So we do and have facilitated integration with quite a lot of different solutions. But yeah, really, it's kind of a case by case. There's nothing necessarily out of the box. It generally does involve some customization, but we do have a number of different mechanisms for driving that automation, integration. Sorry.
And so I've just realised I missed an earlier question there from Tracy Bradford as well. He was asking the same about whether. Yeah. I guess that same answer does apply there, Tracy. The next question there is from Hazel, asking that, oops, sorry, my screen keeps flipping, have a few old hard drives and take backups in empty archives. And will this software be able to sort them out, and will I be able to search them?
Well, the answer to that, Hazel, is yes and yes. You'd certainly be able to, once you'd digitise the content of your tapes and in the archive, transferring any data that's on your drives into Preservica, then yes, it would be able to preserve them, but also enable you to search them as well, and then provide access to anyone that required it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Preserve 365 is principally focused on extending the core functionality into Microsoft, and then just allowing that kind of really seamless migration that keeps all the metadata and the files and everything. But the core of Preservica, the technology that Preserve 365 is built on, is, as Roger says, is all around taking data from different sources and ensuring that it's accessible. Whatever the format, even if we can't give you a preservation copy of that format. So like you saw in the demos, like an MP4 of a real media asset, we can still store it, and then it's just how we gain access to that data at a point in the future. But yeah, I mean, hard drives, yeah, we can get data off hard drives. Literally all we need is access to a file share, and we can ingest that data. So it's hugely flexible.
Yeah, And Datacom IT would be able to assist you getting data off your drives as well, if that was something you needed.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Roger. Thanks. That's why, I know Roger and Richard were mentioning the partnership earlier, but that's really the value that we get from this partner. This partner in particular in our partnership with Datacom IT is that not only is it that regional presence, but it's also the skills and the services that they bring you in terms of where is your data now, go through the digitization process, and ultimately get it into whether it's SharePoint or whether it's the core Preservica platform. That really is the value that Datacom IT drive here, and ultimately that's why we chose them as a partner.
Thanks, Neil. Another question here from Jenny, just inquiring as to how we would preserve Microsoft Team chats as well as preserving OneNote.
Yeah, so we have a roadmap of features and functions, and Teams is on it. So we don't have anything that's generally available yet. However, the Power Automate connector will connect to everything. So I'm currently in my spare time, because I'm sad, dabbling with Power Automate and getting it to basically go away and give you the choice through that Copilot interface of find a channel, find a team. These are the chats. Do you want to archive it? Yes, no. So you can do the integration, but you effectively have to build it yourself. However, it's on the roadmap, and we will be building something natively in the product at a point in the future. OneNote is slightly different, because OneNote, I believe, just stores it stores like a copy of all of your OneNotes effectively. So as it's a file, we could just take a copy of that file, just whether you store it on your PC or you store it in your OneDrive. Principle the same. It's just data.
Excellent, thank you. Next question here from Michael is asking if we can discuss the kinds of criteria that clients are using to determine which of their records are sent to Preserve 365 and those that remain in SharePoint.
Yeah, great question. Really, it comes down to compliance. So I think I was looking the other day, and it is a worrying statistic. It's something like since 2010, I think it is, the compliance online data has grown by something like 360%. So I say that there are lots of industries where effectively, as soon as you've kind of created and finalized that data, you need to keep it. So again, it could be like architect plans, some building regulations for something that you've had done. Obviously, and again, it changes country by country, and this is where Datacom IT can kind of lend their expertise. But really, SharePoint is where you collaborate. You've got that multi-party editing. You have multiple people working on the same document, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint, whatever. If that is a file that has any kind of governance associated to it, then that would be where you would move it off to a solution like Preserve 365, where we can effectively ensure that you can access that file into the future and be kind of confident that there's all of that backup rigor and everything associated to it. So there's no hard and fast rules as such. It's more down to the specific compliant requirements of your company and what you would quantify as being a high value digital asset that you want to retain. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I'd also just add to that another sector here, of course, is schools, and everyone here in Australia will be aware of recent inquiries to do with schools as well, and there's a lot of records there that would also need to be kept on about the children that attended, the teachers who were there at different times over the last 10, 20, 30 years as well. So there's another example.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, thanks to Jenny as well. She apparently didn't think that my dabbling with Power Automate is sad, so that's definitely worth a call out. Thank you, Jenny.
Right, and there is one last question here from Mary Jane, and I guess it is very much along the lines of the previous questions about other systems and integration. So she's asked specifically about integration with Content Manager, and I don't know, Roger, whether you can expand on what we've talked about there before, but there isn't an existing integration with that, but it is possible through APIs, but not it's not an out-of-the-box solution that we've got.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. I don't think there's any more questions there that we haven't answered. So I don't know if anyone else in the audience still has something that they would like to ask. If you do, please do drop it in the chat, and we'll answer that for you. Otherwise, I guess we're waiting to see if there are any further last questions. I'd like to very much thank Neil Cruikshanks from Preservica for joining us today and providing that demonstration of Preserve 365, and very much appreciate you being up so late at night to do so, and of course Roger also from Datacom IT for his presentation and the concepts around digital preservation.
And if I could just say one last word there, if talking to the slide, if you'd like to have a demonstration of Preserve 365 or just the Preservica system itself, that's a little bit tailored to your particular circumstances, do get in contact. Be happy to set up a demonstration and learn about what you've got, what your records you've got, or what archival content you've got to do a demonstration that's more tailored to your particular circumstances. There is also one of the great things about Preservica as well that I've learned is the community user groups that are sprung up around the UK, the States, and here in Australia as well. There's a lot of information that is gained from other Preservica users that are sharing ideas and concepts and problems that they're having as well. And it's a great way to feel like you're part of a broader community that are approaching these strategies and ideas together as well.
Yeah, and a big thank you from me as well for hosting me, and thanks for all the great questions, everybody, as well.
Excellent. I don't think there is one last there, Tracy. Presumably we'll be able to access the slides from today's presentation, and so you will receive some correspondence from us with access to be able to rewatch a recording of today's presentation. I think the last questions are just thank you. So thank you for your feedback, and again, thank you all very much for joining us and allowing spending the time or giving us your time to allow us to provide today's webinar. Thank you all very much, and with that, we will bring a conclusion to today's event. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.